Yo, what's up, people? It's your boy. I'm Don1, and I am back with another video. I'm Don1. You know me. 4K, baby. You're seeing me live in effect. 4 freaking K. Okay? Okay, we're going to be talking about a question that is in the basketball world: how to fix the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, you have people in the sports side of the world, the sports journalists, newsroom side of the world, individuals such as Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, Chris Broussard, even Colin Cowherd are suggesting how to fix the Cleveland Cavaliers, okay? And on the other side of the spectrum, you have bloggers, YouTube personalities such as myself. Carcino is the most popular one to me. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, rate, comment, subscribe, and enjoy. You will not be disappointed. Trust me, this brother is phenomenal with his channel. And even he had suggestions for the Cleveland Cavaliers to do. Now, on one end of the spectrum, you have individuals like Stephen A. Smith that suggest the following, okay? They should just sign another big star. A Chris Paul, a Paul George, a Boogie Cousins, a Carmelo Anthony, just to name a few, okay? And on the other side of the spectrum, you have individuals like Carcino for Life, bloggers that suggest that, well, the Cleveland Cavaliers should just sign the younger talent, the younger crop of free agents that's going to be available in free agency this summer. Okay, so when you look on the other side of the spectrum of the equation, let's trade Kevin Love for a Paul George, a Boogie Cousins, a Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, an individual like that. Okay, now, as far as Carmelo Anthony goes, if you trade for Carmelo Anthony and you give the New York Knicks, if the New York Knicks want him, I don't see why they would want him, Kevin Love, then you're going to have even a bigger problem. Because see, now, as of right now, you have 2 ISO players that need the ball, LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. Now, you're going to add another ISO player, such as Carmelo Anthony. So now you have 3 ball-dominant ISO players, okay? And then you're going to run into the same problems that the Miami Heat ran into when LeBron James and Dwayne Wade was on the same squad, okay? So, and it took a while for them to adjust to one another, but that's just 2 individuals. Now you're talking about 3, okay? And I think that's going to be a little bit too hard to overcome. Plus the fact of when you get rid of Kevin Love, I know a lot of people don't give Kevin Love a lot of props, but Kevin Love did more for the Cleveland Cavaliers than just stand behind the 3-point line. His low post game, he also helped the Cleveland Cavaliers with his low post game, with his offensive rebounding. A lot of equations of Kevin Love, you're going to have to somehow replace when you trade him. And I just think that's going to be a little bit too hard for the Cleveland Cavaliers to ultimately do. Now, Paul George, once again, I wouldn't understand why the Indiana Pacers would want Kevin Love, but let's just state for the argument they did, and you swap. Kevin Love went to the Indiana Pacers. Paul George is now a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers, a younger player, has tons of offensive game, okay? And now you can, when you play the Golden State Warriors, now Paul George can defend either Kevin Durant or Klay Thompson, okay? I can see the angle there. I can see why the Cleveland Cavaliers would want that, but then you run into another problem, okay? Now, Paul George isn't an ISO player, but Paul George's defense is questionable, all right? And still, the little aspects that Kevin Love did, Paul George can't fulfill those, all right? Now let's talk about Chris Paul. if you somehow got Chris Paul on the Cleveland Cavaliers, you have to let go of Kevin Love. Okay, that sounds intriguing, but here's the problem with that situation, with that theory. Now you have Chris Paul and Kyrie Irving. You're going to play both of them. I'm assuming you're going to play both of them. You have two guards that are going to be pretty much under 6'3". All right. That's a small, you made a smaller lineup even smaller. Okay. You understand what I'm saying? So when they do play the Golden State Warriors, yeah, Chris Paul can D up Steph Curry, but what about Klay Thompson? What about Draymond Green? What about Kevin Durant? Is Kyrie Irving going to defend one of those brothers? I don't know how that's going to materialize. And then the other aspects about Kevin Love, you still don't have anybody to fulfill those responsibilities and those duties. All right. And Boogie Cousins. Boogie Cousins, intriguing. I wouldn't understand why the New Orleans Pelicans would want Kevin Love, but let's just say hypothetically they're interested in Kevin Love. Kevin Love goes to New Orleans. Boogie Cousins comes to Cleveland. But then you run into another problem once again. Now the things that Kevin Love did, now Boogie Cousins can do those things, and he's a lot younger. All right. Okay. But still, Boogie Cousins, has he fully matured and has he fully grew up? Okay. He had issues when he was with the Sacramento Kings. That's why the Sacramento Kings got rid of him for virtually nothing. Now, with the small data in front of you, it seems on the outside looking in that Boogie Cousins has grew up. Okay. He didn't get a lot of technicals when he was with the New Orleans Pelicans. But are you going to bank on that? Are you fully going to bank on that? A full year with Boogie Cousins in the East. Are you sure you want to bank with that? And is that going to put you over with the Golden State Warriors? And I don't see that either. All right. You're still going to have the same problems. Who's going to, now he can probably D up Kevin Durant, but let's just be real. Let's be honest out there. Is he really going to stop Kevin Durant? And then still you have the Steph Curry factor, the Klay Thompson factor, even the Draymond Green factor. Okay. I don't think that's enough to beat the Golden State Warriors. All right. Now, on the other side of the equation, you have bloggers and YouTube personalities that suggest that, well, won't they just sign this crop of free agents, this young talent that they can get on the cheap? Now, Carcino suggested a few names, okay? And then he also stated that, these one-year contract players that the Cleveland Cavaliers that had don't resign them. Well, that's a Captain Obvious moment. Other than Kyle Korver, that's questionable. If you can re-sign him for the cheap, good for you. But if you can't, let him go. All right? But here's the problem with that. Normally, 9 times out of 10, a lot of these young, talented players that get either traded to an organization, they're signed. They get drafted by an organization. They came to the organization as a walk-on. They tend to go back to that organization because that organization has some aspects of them, what they can do, what they can't do, and they have more flexibility salary cap wise to re-sign them, and it wouldn't hurt their cap. Okay. And when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, the only way they're going to get this talent, they're going to have to overpay this talent because this talent knows that you want them. It's not a situation of you need them, you want them. All right. So you're going to have to overpay for them to be on your squad. And Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Cavaliers do not have the flexibility salary cap wise to sign these players. Okay. So here is the bottom line, how you can ultimately fix the Cleveland Cavaliers. You have to do it internally. All right. You have to do it with the mindset of there's not a team out there that wants J.R. Smith. There's not a team out there that wants Christian Thompson. There's not a team out there that wants Kevin Love, okay? Now, out of those three names, maybe Kevin Love could possibly get traded, but you're not going to get something equal or even better than Kevin Love. So you're pretty much stuck with Kevin Love, all right, on that equation. Christian Thompson, Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith, these are overpaid players, which, by the way, LeBron James, you wanted. You wanted these guys, okay? The Cleveland Cavaliers they didn't mind having these guys, but they wanted them at a reduced salary. You overpaid for these guys, and now you're stuck with these guys. Nobody wants J.R. Smith. What team in their right mind wants J.R. Smith? How can J.R. Smith help a team now? Now back in the day, J.R. Smith was a multi-talented guard, particularly when he played with the Denver Nuggets, all right? But the man is a little bit older, and he's pretty much relying on his three-point game. Iman Shumpert, younger, was a good raw talent, good on the defensive end, but sometimes it's questionable on his offensive skills, okay? And with this new age that we're in, you kind of want players that can play in an offensive system, okay? And that's what Iman Shumpert is struggling with, okay? With Christian Thompson, he's an overpaid player, okay? Who truly wants him, all right? I said last year the Cleveland Cavaliers shouldn't sign him. They signed him. And then I said you guys should be trying to trade him and get something. To me, I thought they could have gotten Carmelo Anthony in the trade if they packaged Christian Thompson. Okay, that was just my opinion. And maybe the New York Knicks would take Christian Thompson and you guys get Carmelo Anthony and Joakim Noah. Because at that point of time, they was done with Joakim Noah. All right, so you pretty much had to deal with Joakim Noah on his salary, and they would deal with Christian Thompson's salary. Okay, so you're pretty much swapping. You're swapping players that are not irrelevant to either organization just to get Carmelo Anthony. Okay, so they could have done that. All right, now the New York Knicks are looking like we're gutting this thing. Okay, we're going to try to either trade Carmelo Anthony or release Carmelo Anthony, and we're starting all over. We're gutting this. We're gonna fill this roster through the draft. Okay, so that possibility of Christian Thompson going to the New York Knicks, it ain't happening. All right. Now, if J.R. Smith was if he only had 1 year left on his deal, then you'll have a lot of takers because they just want J.R. Smith for his salary. So when they don't sign him, they get that salary. Okay? So J.R. Smith got 2-3 more years on his deal. Same to be said for Shumpert. And I think Christian Thompson got like a 6-year deal. You're stuck with these players. Nobody wants these players. There's no way on God's green earth nobody would take this talent. So you're going to have to fix the Cleveland Cavaliers from within. You're going to have to, first of all, go talk to LeBron James when he's done on his sabbatical or when he takes his vacation. You have to sit him down and say, hey, look, dog, now more than ever, we're going to have to tweak this roster. We can't keep signing the players you want, keep going further and further, keep paying the luxury tax, okay? And we're stuck with players that no other organization wants. And by the way, these players you wanted us to overpay on, and now we're stuck with them, all right? So LeBron James is going to have to do some soul searching. He's going to have to incorporate, I know he doesn't like it, go down low in the blocks, okay? They're going to have to talk to him about adding Kevin Love, including his touches on the offensive level. And we're just not going to have just Kevin Love just wander around the three-point line. He's going to have to do other things for us, okay? And we're going to have to incorporate more defense because we're an older squad. We're not young chickens no more. Okay, and if we're able to, we can get a player from the draft. Maybe there's a good player that fell to our laps that we can get. We can't trade up for that player. We're pretty much going to have to stay neutral, which, by the way, I don't think the Cleveland Cavaliers even have a first round pick. Okay. So they're going to have to add players that way. And whatever players that are left over in the free agency this summer that other teams don't want, that happen to be younger, if they can help the Cleveland Cavaliers, that's a possibility. But this thing about, getting Carmelo Anthony, that's over with. Okay. Now you have to look at the rest of your landscape in the East if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. The 76ers in the next 3 or 4 years are going to get better. Okay. And the Boston Celtics, they're making moves right now to be better next year. There's a possibility they can get Jimmy Butler and Gordon Hayward, okay, on top of the roster that they already had, which, by the way, they was number 1 in the East. Now everyone knows Cleveland really didn't want the position. They really didn't care. But next year, they could be a serious threat for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Cleveland Cavaliers may not be able to go to the finals. Now, I know that's shocking to a lot of you guys out there. I know a lot of you guys say, what? LeBron James not going to make it to the finals next year? Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? But you have to face facts and accept reality that the Wizards are going to get better. The 76ers, down the road, they're going to get better. The Boston Celtics are definitely getting better. Okay. And when you're talking about the Bulls, if they can they have an older roster, but if they can keep those guys healthy, that's a possibility. If Jimmy Butler is with them. Now, if Jimmy Butler leaves and goes to Boston via a draft trade, then that should be telling you that they're going to get a pick in return. So now the Bulls are rebuilding. Okay. So Rondo and Dwayne Wade, they may be in talks of either trading them or releasing them or just let them play through. Okay. So that's the problem with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers, there's no magic drink or no magic potion that you're going to ultimately add talent on top of the talent that you have. And even if they gotten that talent, that I don't think that's enough to beat the Golden State Warriors. Now, if somehow, some way, okay, you can do a little bit of both answers. Out of all of those free agents that they listed, those players those stars that they listed, Carmelo Anthony may be possible, where if the Knicks have a situation of, well, let's release Carmelo Anthony, just give him his money, and we just, we'll just deal with him that way. And his salary is going to affect our salary cap. But right now we're rebuilding. So we're not trying to rebuild anytime soon. So we'll deal with that. You can possibly get Carmelo Anthony on the cheap with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now you can add him to Kevin Love. Okay. But the problem is still there. Okay. The problem is now you got 3 ISO players. And which, by the way, out of all of those suggestions, Boogie Cousins, Paul George, Chris Paul, I think Carmelo Anthony, out of all of those equations, I think the Carmelo Anthony equation is more realistic than those other factors. But you still going to run into the problem. Even if you keep Kevin Love and you add Carmelo Anthony, all right, you're still running into the same problem. You got 3 ISO players. How you going to figure that out? And you're going to have to also incorporate Kevin Love in the offense a lot more. He needs to get down low. The things that Kevin Love did great in Minnesota, they're not applying that or using that with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why the Cleveland Cavaliers are having this problem. Okay? So you have to understand you're an older squad. You're not the Golden State Warriors. You're not going to outshoot them. So the best offense is even a better defense. You need to have players that can play a defensive role that will give in some of those stretch runs, in some of those possessions with the Golden State Warriors, make it harder for them. Okay, you can't outshoot the Golden State Warriors. You're playing into their strength. Okay, that's what I was saying in the finals, and that's why they didn't win the finals. All right, because they were trying to outshoot the Golden State Warriors, and you can't do that. Now, let's talk about the fact that you can get Carmelo Anthony if the Knicks release him. I think that's, out of all of those factors, I think that's the strongest possibility. You get him, plus you may sign some other younger talent that other teams may not want this free agent season, and that's a better squad than what they had last year. All right, but still, they're going to have several problems in front of them how to get Carmelo Anthony incorporated in the offense. Now I know Skip Bayless is going to say, Stephen A. Smith, he's going to say this following, but he played with the Olympics with those other big time squads. Okay, so it's not like it's hard, but it is, Stephen A. Smith. When you're playing on the Olympics, they're not really, they know that they're the big dogs in the room. They don't really have any competition in front of them, and they're all friends. It was more like, like an exhibition to them. Okay, a breath of fresh air. It wasn't that serious. It wasn't that deep. When you add Carmelo Anthony, you have to understand the things that make Carmelo Anthony good may affect the Cleveland Cavaliers as an organization. He's a ball-dominant player. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the honest-to-God truth. And he's an aging player. All right? So, I just don't see how you're going to incorporate 3 ISO players, how that's going to work. Okay? But if you're pushing that envelope, then you got to have plays set in place for those ISO players. Okay? Now, Kevin Love, y'all should, definitely expand his game with you guys, because the things that he did in Minnesota, he can still do those things with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So you have to add him more to the offense, and you need a squad. You need a squad that's not offensive capable, but defensive ready for the Golden State Warriors. And maybe, just maybe, that will ultimately work for you guys, okay, in overtaking the Golden State Warriors. All right. But guys, tell me what you think out there. Rate, comment, subscribe. Please, notification gang in the building. Hit that notification icon, that notification bell, and it will let you know when my next video or live stream is going down. It's your boy. I'm Chris the Down One, and I am